JohnAge Project.
Trust no one. Trust no one. Trust no one.
You found it. You're here. You're headlong down the runaway train that is the AnomicAge. And I am your host, JohnAge, coming at you happily at 1:26 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So happy to be here in the dark side of the AM with you, hailing proudly from the coastal plains of the old North State. I will be your tour guide this evening as we take a somewhat satirical journey down the path of murder, destruction, mayhem, and the extermination of human life on this planet. A forced march into obsolescence thrust upon us by a global satanic death cult of pedophiles. Check out AnomicAge.com. If you can do no more, please like all the likes and subscribe to all the subscriptions. PayPal.me/AnomicAge. Patreon.com/AnomicAge as well. We got the iPhone app, Android app. Subscribe by email link. Buy me a cup of coffee. What else we got? Satoshis, the Cash app. It's all right there at AnomicAge.com, I tell you. It's right there at AnomicAge.com. Tonight might run a little long. I feel like talking. I hope you do too, because I'm happy to continue our conversation with you. Title of tonight's episode is Programming Pop Culture. Programming popular culture. Man, I got so much to talk about with this one. I don't know where to really begin except for at the beginning. This is a show I've been kind of keeping in the quiver for quite a while. I was kind of trying to put all the pieces together that I wanted, have the correct show art, and it sort of coalesced the other night because I don't know how in the devil it happened, but I got this ridiculous case of what I assume to be poison ivy. I've never had it before in my life, but I guess I do now. I don't know. Ridiculous case of poison ivy. And me and my daughter went and got some calamine lotion at the pharmacy a couple nights ago. A lovely late night drive to the 24-hour pharmacy, like 11. I don't know. It was beautiful. It was wonderful. But anyway, that just sort of spurred me to think about that old song. I think it's the Coasters, the Poison Ivy song, where they mentioned the calamine lotion. And my daughter never heard of it. I had to pull it up on the YouTube so we could listen to it just for a minute. And it just struck me how much things have changed. And I will happily be the get off my lawn old guy at the club if you want me to. That's fine. I enjoy that role, really. But it just really struck me how much things have changed. And it's so sad. I would suggest how myopic the current generation is. I don't know what you want to call it, the millennials, the Ys, the Zs, or whatever they want to be. It don't matter to me. They seem very myopic in their sense of history. And that's something I was picking up on about 15 years ago. It just kind of struck me because I still do keep having conversations with people of the younger generation. And it often struck me just how short-sighted they really were. They just have no concept of anything pre-like 1990. And anything pre-1990 is somehow antiquated and relegated to the dustbins of history. And it's just wild because they really would have no concept of the old Poison Ivy song or so many of the great songs. I'm a sucker for the old Motown stuff, the old R&B, the old Motown stuff, all that stuff coming out of the, you could even go late 50s, but I would suggest primarily the 60s. But I'll roll into the 70s too with the OJs. Can't beat a little backstab. Love some OJs. But so much of that music, I think, is lost now. And it's been culturally lost. I'm a big fan, pun intended, of Big Reed on the Instagram. Hailing out of Philadelphia. He's a great channel. You might not want to listen to it if four-letter words hurt your ears, but great channel. I don't know, man. He tells it like it is, folks. Clearly a black man living in Philadelphia, been living there, as he will tell you if you listen to his channel at all, since the 60s. And he often references and even plays a little bit of that beautiful soul and R&B from that era. Man, it's so good. But I think about it, today's generation, you could focus like just on the black culture of today's generation, but you gotta throw all culture in there too, because I love that kind of music, and I'm clearly a Caucasoidish. So, but it's just so sad. I believe that most people, black culture, white or otherwise, right now, would have no inkling that this beautiful, soulful, just harmonies and the rhythm section and horns, it's just, oh man, just beautiful music. But I guarantee you, if we did a man on the street right now and polled, talked to, or otherwise asked anybody in the black community right now about any of these old groups or this old music, they wouldn't have a clue. They would believe that it all began with the hip-hop in the early 80s. They wouldn't even get into the Sugar Hill Gang and some of that late 70s mess. It'd be the early 80s. I believe they'd benchmark it maybe at Run DMC and some LL Cool J at the most. And it saddens me because really, you got to have a history, man. Those who do not know history will be doomed to repeat it. And I would go further and say you will not have an appreciation for the culture you have now because you won't know the culture you had then. You can't throw the baby out with the bathwater, folks. I don't know how many puns I can deliver here. But it's downright sad. It really is, man. Some of the best music. Just elegant culture. If you look at those folks wearing these lovely suits, beautiful dance moves, I mean horns, and oh man, just love that music. Just love that music, man. But sadly, the folks of the current generation seem to believe it all began with the hip hop culture, and the only element of black culture that's promulgated right now is the hip hop culture. And I'll paraphrase Big Reed once again, folks. Culture of death and destruction. Culture of sacrifice. Culture of Satanism. Culture of, however you want to package this commodity. And it is a commodity. It was meant to destroy. This ain't a secret. This ain't a conspiracy theory. Looking at Sumner Redstone and what he owned with the MTVs and the VH1s and all that stuff back then, folks. He funded hip-hop culture. Yeah, random, not random. I was about to misspeak there. But, Sumner Redstone was behind the hip-hop culture, which was behind infusing the drug culture, the prison culture, the promulgation of crack culture. It all connects, folks. It all connects. All these conservatives flag waving for this scumbag Oliver North. Scumbag, folks. Iran-Contra anyone. Because couldn't remember a thing. I don't know anything about it. Bringing the crack cocaine into the black community. Starting way back in Vietnam where they were shipping this stuff into body bags. Michael Rupert, in case you don't know that name, you should probably look into it. Went in there at an open hearing, live TV, calling out the FBI for being the ones bringing that stuff in. Can't forget old Bill Clinton and Georgie Porgy Bush, baby. Bringing it into Mena Airport, and that's just one of them. In Arkansas, Barry Seal, the like. It all connects, folks. You see, this whole thing was, as I suggested, programming popular culture. So we took a beautiful musical heritage and culture that was also promulgated. If you look at how Motown was coming out of Detroit, and if you look at how they blackmailed the owner of Motown into selling all that mess, it's all orchestrated, folks. Take a look at the dark history between Joe Jackson and the Jackson 5 and all the folks in that family, man. Just tore up from the floor up, folks. But it's all orchestrated. So I got to say, even the beautiful music, even the good side of things, orchestrated, programmed. So I know somebody's going, man, you're missing so much, John. You're putting the cart before the horse. So let's go back. Let's go back in time, if you will. Let's go back to 1947. Yeah. What was this? It was when, let me see. I don't want to mess this up, so I'm going to try not to. National Security Act of 1947. Why was that important to you? That happened so long ago, John. Why do we care? Here's why you might. That's because that's when the OSS changed into the CIA. Yeah. See, after World War II, we were flush with money. That old suicidal tendency song, Send Us Your Money, they did. We were the proverbial last country standing after World War II. Russia, millions dead. Germany, allegedly millions dead. You know, most of Europe in shambles. Great Britain in shambles. U.S., we were there for like a year and some change before the war ended. Even though Japan already surrendered, we just felt the need to drop a bomb on the largest Christian church in that nation. And then drop another bomb for good measure. So, I say all that to say this. Thanks to Edward Bernays, old Sigmund Freud's nephew, the guy who quite literally wrote the book Propaganda. Yeah, he's the guy to blame when you're having your eggs and bacon in the morning. A little orange juice. Yeah, he was paid by the pork company to legitimize, normalize, and standardize that typical American breakfast. Your Grammy or great-Grammy got lung cancer thanks to Edward Bernays. He's the one that got torches of freedom. He paid a bunch of women to go out there in a big national parade, I do believe in New York City, and go out there and smoke. You see, at the time, we actually had a moral fabric still intact, and people viewed smoking as a bit of a degenerate behavior, but most assuredly for the female persuasion. Don't worry, Edward Bernays swooped in because he got paid by the big cigarette corps to normalize cigarette smoking for the women, and he did. Think no more, because Edward Bernays also brought you Hollywood spokespeople. You see this 8 days a week and twice on Sunday. Today, this was even revealed by Dodge. Yeah, not that Dodge, the car, but Dodge and Elon Musk in the first few months of the Trump second regime. He was revealing that, oh, by the way, in case you didn't know, now you know. To paraphrase a little Biggie, all these Hollywood stooges that were coming out during PSYOP 19, talking about their vax and all this, that, and the other, they were paid spokespeople. Surprise me not, right? Because before the great Barry Soetoro left office, he once again legalized propaganda here on domestic soils. But let's not go too far afield, because we want to go back to 1947, National Security Act. Yeah, gave us a Department of War, switched OSS to CIA. And oh, no, they would never run domestic ops, right? Well, they wouldn't until, of course, the Frank Church Committee hearings a la 1973 revealed they've been doing just that for quite some time. Revealed MK Ultra, revealed that we brought all kinds of Nazi scientists here, a la the rat lines, to South America, of course. And of course, we brought those same Nazi scientists up here with Operation Paperclip. We put them in the universities. We put them in dear old NASA. Yeah, a great ploy organization that just so happens to siphon off a bunch of money. I wonder where that money goes. It sure don't go into space. So we got that coming through too. So after World War II, we were the last country standing, and that brought us into the, I would suggest, modern era of what we refer to as popular culture. Because, yeah, as I submitted to you a few moments ago, Edward Bernays was one of the first to get some of the even early silent film stars, and film stars eventually became spokespeople for all these products, spokespeople for all these causes. Cause celeb, spokespeople for various government causes. And I don't even have the time to run down the laundry list of actors and actresses who were actually agents of the state, don't you know? CIA. Yeah, they were all connected. Well, not say all. Many connected in some form or fashion. Some of them are quite obvious. You want to look at Marilyn Monroe? I mean, if that ain't a honey trap, I don't know what is. Clearly, folks, clearly. All the way down to Jimmy Stewart. Yeah, Jim Stewart, too. Yeah, in case you missed that. I can't remember the lady. Oh, man, what the heck was her name? The CIA chef. What was that lady's name? I can't remember her name. And I don't think I'm going to be able to find it. Julia Child. There we go. Spy ops for OSS and CIA. The Julia Child. I couldn't begin to do a Julia Child impression. I wish I could. I'd do the Cajun chef for you, though. I guarantee. Man, it's nice to be up at this time. It's nice to be up with you folks. So I got to say thank you again for tuning in and hanging out with me. Don't worry, we ain't done yet. I know the clock might say so, but I say no. Not yet. So you're thinking to yourself, what does all this got to do with popular culture, John? How can it really have just begun after World War II? Well, here it is. I'll submit it to you. It began really in earnest after World War II, at least, because that's kind of when everything really ramped up. You see, once again, we were flush with money, unlike everybody else on the globe after World War II. We had gone through the silent film era. We had gone through the radio star era. And we were just beginning la télévision. The programming of all programs, folks. Of course, they could program people quite aptly, as they did with the stars of the silver screen. But once the people were able to bring that little light box into their den, living room, kitchen, and otherwise casitas, then it all went south, didn't it? Then you didn't have to pay for the movie ticket. You had to pay for that one little light box, and then everybody would cluster around it. See, after the advent of la télévision, then you had the TV dinner. Oh, my. Now we can change a little bit more, We can push the commercials for the TV dinner. And we can go from, in some sectors, the more small, private family farms, to the industrial agro. So after World War II, they had to do something with all those petroleum products. Whatever shall we do? I know. We'll give you a bunch of fake food. We'll give you all that big pharma action. We'll give you fertilizers and pesticides and all kinds of goodies that just ain't quite goody for you. That's what we'll do after World War II. Don't you see? So, yeah, we got to get some industrial agri involved. And we're going to push it on the television. And then we're going to get second wave feminism roaring to you, baby, because the right to vote ain't enough. We want mo. We got to get mama in the workplace so we can get some more taxes. We got to get Junior into kindergarten. That'd be child garden a la Germany. Don't you know? Frankfurt School, anyone? From where? Frankfurt, Germany. Yeah. Where'd those rat line people and the Operation Paperclip people come from? I don't they? Yeah, I know. Germany. Just a coincidence, you know. Werner von Braun, yeah, big scientist at Plum Island giving you Lyme's disease, all that just coincidental, right? So all that was going through after World War II also. So that became the main driver for pushing propaganda, because then we had popular culture. We had a whole new marketing scheme because the radio was cute and the television was so much cuter. Because now we could market to an audience that could see the products. Nice new kitchen for mom, yes. Nice smoking jacket and pipe for dear old dad. And what about the toys for los niños? Yeah, all brought to you via the television. Popular culture had arisen, because then you could see what the cool kids were doing, don't you know? You might have seen the cool kids at the lunch table or in the school before, but now the proverbial they could show you the popular thing on the TV. Yeah. From the popular shoe to the popular lawnmower to that sudsy, scrubby doubly for the sink and everything in between, folks. Popular culture had arisen. And it had spokespeople from the movies. It had new television stars de la televisión. And what we have about mid-50s? Then we had the music stars. Yeah. We need to take a whole nother visit with Mr. Sage of Quay and really get into this music thing, folks, because it runs a whole lot deeper than you think. I was, erroneously and very myopically myself thinking, it's really popped off in the 60s. But if you really look at this thing, it actually popped off in the 50s. Coincidental, huh? Yeah. We got Edward Bernays already pushing torches of freedom. Smoking is cool. Second wave feminism here for you. We got the television rolling out a little bit in the 40s, but really hitting its stride in the 50s. TV dinner. Mom, you might need to go to work. Don't worry, we got this TV dinner for you. We can give you some pesticides and petroleum products so you can die. All those petroleum products out of World War II, guess what we can also do? The Flexner Report, funded by Rockefeller so that he can use all that Standard Oil and all that oil to give you petroleum-based cars and petroleum-based medicine. Never again will you need naturopath or homeopath, because we got allopathic medicina. And of course, we can fund that and push that through popular culture too. We've all seen those ads of a doctor smoking with a cigarette saying, yeah, you can smoke Lucky Strikes. It's good for you. It's got vitamin C in it and stuff. Popular culture, folks. Programming popular culture. So in the 1950s, you began to see rock and roll. Yeah. Buddy Haley and the Comets. I was listening to something the other day, and this is one of those Mandela effect things, because we all know it was Buddy Haley and the Comets. Now apparently it's being promulgated that we were all mistaken, that it was actually Buddy Haley and his comets, right? I guess that's the new Mandela effect, or maybe it's old, I don't know. Just heard it last week, so it's new to me. So we got to push the rock and roll culture of the 1950s, rolling out with such acts as Buddy Haley and the Comets, Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis, Chuck Berry, and Elvis Presley. But that wasn't quite enough, because we needed a little mo, didn't we? Yeah, we needed some real CIA-funded atrocities. So that rolls us into the 1950s. So in the 50s, it all goes kaplooey, doesn't it, folks? Because the CIA begins running those electric Kool-Aid acid tests, man, and shipping Timothy Leary and his band of merry men across country with narcotics and hallucinogens via LSD, man. How was this allowed? That's the real funny business, right? And if you look into the work of David McGowan, you can obviously go down that Laurel Canyon path, and it'll lead you right back to the usual suspects, CIA agents that you might not suspect, but you should probably expect by now. So that pushed what? Along with the advent of the pill, that pushed sexual revolution, a.k.a. degeneracy. Drug culture, man, a.k.a. degeneracy. Don't trust anyone over 30, man. Don't listen to your parents. That's all square, man. Degeneracy. And that's when the Darwinian evolutionary paradigm really got pushed. You don't need God either, brah. Degeneracy. So much happened in the 1950s, didn't it? You went from that clean cut, we're protesting against the Vietnam War, to all of a sudden, those people disappeared and the hippies appeared. These disheveled flower children, drugged out scumbags, pushing their merry message of sanitized for your protection, government-sponsored counterculture. LSD, free love, smoking weed, looking like tramps. That's what was promulgated by the popular culture. In the 60s, you saw the first advent of the cultural anti-hero. I believe with the first show being It Takes a Thief. Oh, he's a thief, but he's a good thief, right? Yeah, that really didn't appear until the 1960s. Again, through popular culture, pushing these cultural elements. I'm going to fast forward through the 70s, not because I don't think they're important, but because maybe we're out of time, or almost. But the 70s, what I would refer to the 70s as like the big hangover generation. You saw third wave feminism, women's rights, gay rights, Native American rights. Everybody's got rights. You have your right to be a slave and be herded up like cattle by the appropriate government-sponsored CIA ops. Operation Chaos, anyone? It was like Operation Midnight Climax, but different. Where they control the countercultural elements, don't you know? Just like they gave all these people LSD, and just to see what happens. So, yeah, the 1970s was, in my humble opinion, the big hangover generation. Everybody of ilk from the 60s was either dead or on their lewd Gorilla Biscuits and cocaine binge by that point in the game. We saw that ushered in by the grossness of disco, and finally, I believe, by, I would say the breath of fresh air, but I believe it was part and parcel, controlled, as always, punk movement. And then by the 80s, you really saw kind of the beginning of what we are seeing today, where you see these pop stars kind of just be culturally replaced once they've sort of lost their luster. Once they hit maybe 30, well, it's time to kick you out of the nest. Don't worry, there's a new... And I'm trying to clean this up for the audience out there. There's a new trollop in waiting. So with the 80s, you saw, of course, Madonna. Oh, I'm such a big countercultural element. I'm pushing the Overton window even further. Look how provocative I am, singing like a virgin in a white wedding dress and writhing all about in this sexual manner. Oh, so shocking. And then by the 90s and beyond, you really just saw everything suffused with these former child stars, former Mickey Mouse and Disney stars, and it all just went plooey. You saw, I guess, Madonna go out. You saw Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera come in, and then you saw whatever. The newest incarnation, flavor of the week, it's all kind of the same. You know, you saw the same thing with... they would bring out the big black provocative starlets, Nicki Minaj, Megan Thee Stallion, all that mess from the last 10 years. I can't even think of the girl in the 1990s. I have no remember. Little Kim, there we go, Little Kim, 1990s. So, a shelf life max of about 10 years, and then we just roll out someone that looks, sounds, and acts just as manure-like, maybe just a little bit more edgy, because of course the Overton window's been moved and kicked down the field even further. So to come full circle, you went from beautiful, lovely music, albeit most likely contrived, to the, what in the world are we listening to today? You know, that's kind of the sickness of it all, folks. And it all happens under the auspice of popular culture. It's got to be progressive. It's got to be popular. And if you harken back to the old ways where you're just old, man, you're just a square. You're just one of those boomers. You're a boomer. I can't wait, I guess, until the boomers are all but gone, and then everybody gets to cut their teeth on the Gen Xers, right? The Gen Xers were just misanthropes and dark, and they just hated everything, man. Sounds pretty accurate, actually, but, you know, just me. Because right now, everybody, left, right, center, and otherwise, is blaming the woes of the world on the boomers, man, the boomers. Yeah, it goes a little deeper than that, folks, a whole lot deeper, really. It's the control and programming of popular culture. Because everything I just ran down in somewhat of a concise laundry list, that's kind of how we ended up where we are today, folks. From popular culture. Because I can't recall who I heard say this recently, but basically they'll give you the example of what to be, and then they will give you the tools to be that. And you got to listen to that Sage of Quay episode. I know it was a couple years back at this point in the game, and I'm trying to, I have not tried actually, but I'm going to try to get him back on again, and we can kind of talk about some of this stuff more. But that's kind of what he and I were talking about, and even before that, the great John Waters and I were talking several years back at this point in the game, just about that too, about how popular culture just kind of gives you this example, and they don't have to necessarily program you to do it. The psychology of people and the herd mentality, the pack or group mentality of people inevitably forces people, consciously, unwittingly, to copy what they see. It's monkey see, monkey do. That's why popular culture is popular culture. They give you this brand to buy into. They give you this car, this outfit, this way of speaking, this mannerism, this norm, or this counter norm. And it's fed in popular culture. So in the 1960s, some of these bands were clearly contrived government works and ops and the like. I mean, you can look at the Laurel Canyon stuff, it's self-evident. But I would suggest that so much of this, as Sage of Quay intimated in our interview, the Beatles being a Tavistock creation, not even a real group. They're as real as the frickin' Monkees, folks. But if you say that, it is so just hard for people to digest. It makes you this iconoclast or iconochrist character if you dare espouse any negativity about the great Beatles, because they were the soundtrack for so many people's adolescence and so many people's lives, and their music was, whoever made it, not them, was great music. But so much of the Beatles was really just throwing out that thought grenade into the crowd, because people that heard that music and liked that music didn't necessarily even have to believe that the Beatles made the music. They just went, yo, here's our blueprint. This is something we can do. And they did. They mimicked. They copied. They created entities just like the Beatles, folks. And I'm going to try to do a whole separate show on this, and I know I'm going to forget, but hopefully shoot me an email, john@AnomicAge.com. Just say, yo, try to remember to do this show. Because I would parallel the Beatles' fake counterculture, fake existence, the Monkees of Britain. I would parallel that with the Sex Pistols Because I think a lot of what we saw there with the Beatles, the proverbial they, were trying to recreate with the Sex Pistols. They were trying to create a countercultural movement like they did in the 60s, in the late 70s, early 80s. They were trying to create that counterculture, that spark to change everything. And I don't believe that it worked out as well as they thought. They were thinking it was going to be a second Beatles, and it was, but it just wasn't in popular culture. It went underground and spoke to a disenfranchised or disaffected youth, first in England, then across the pond. And you saw that same copycat effect, though. I want to bring that up because that's so key. You saw the copycat effect of the Beatles in the 60s. You saw the copycat effect of the Sex Pistols in the 70s, 80s, and beyond. And you could even throw a band like Green Day in there from 1990, 95, I believe, when Dookie came out, their big record, man. Because I just saw something from, I think it was Pappas, whatever his name is, Blink-182 guitarist or whatever, but saying that, that Green Day was such an instrumental part of their existence as a pop punk band. And we have seen how much both of those, I would suggest, seminal bands, whether you like them, don't like them, think they're punk, think they're pop, who gives a crap? Those two bands were hugely influential. And that's just it. It's the copycat effect, folks. How many bands were mimicking the Sex Pistols? How many bands mimicking the Ramones? For Pete's sake, there's a whole subgenre of punk that's basically just Ramones ripoff mess. It's really bizarre. But that's how it works. It's monkey see, monkey do. It's popular culture being created, serving as a blueprint to replicate. It's like a mind virus or a cultural virus within a culture and society. And that virus can be used to move that over to the window, to shift the norms, values, standards, and otherwise mores within the culture, within the popular culture. They become tropes almost. They become just these larger-than-life figures. What is that old Albert Pike from Morals and Dogma? When the people need a hero, we'll supply them with a hero. They do just that every year. We don't need another hero. Let's just supplied by the government. So, I'm doing that annoying thing where I eat the ice because I'm sorry. I will not eat the ice on the air anymore. Anyway, folks, I'm just rambling on here, but I think we have successfully put this in a little bow. We've tied it off nice and neat, and it's time to put it aside for the night. We have thusly covered programming popular culture. Or did we? I'm looking at the images there. We might not have, guys. Yeah, I'll throw some more out there because I don't want you to think it's just succinctly popular culture. I did mention the subculture of punk, but I see I put an image up there of Metallica. I believe they work this out with every subgenre, folks. Every subgenre, they give you a hero, they give you a blueprint, and they say, here, follow this. They did it with David Bowie. Oh, let's create this Ziggy Stardust character. Let's create this whole counterculture of androgynous, makeup covered, we're not quite dudes, we're not quite chicks, New York Dolls appeal. You got to look into the connections between the New York Dolls manager and the Sex Pistols. Little Malcolm McLaren, you might want to look into that. Just so happens, Malcolm, couch hopping begins to get cozied up with this lady who runs a shop called Sex. Ooh, so provocative. Who gives all the garb attire and makes a career out of attiring up the Sex Pistols and thus other punk rockers of the day. Of course, a socialist, leftist, communist, right? Big surprise. Anyway, we could do all that in another show, folks. You can't do everything, but you can do something. Thanks for sticking up a little late night with me. Thank you for tuning in. Please consider becoming a patron, making a donation. Like all the likes, subscribe to all the subscriptions. Love these conversations. I'll see you next time. Be safe out there. I'll be seeing you sooner than later in the Anomic Age.
Thank you for listening to the AnomicAge, a JohnAge project. For past shows, further info, and to comment, go to AnomicAge.com. That's AnomicAge.com. Till next time, thank you for listening to the AnomicAge.